Hi, I'm with Bob again, obviously Niagara Falls Boulevard. And so what brings you out today?
Today, we got 100 days to the election. Everybody please stay involved. And your vote is very important. Come November 4th, 5th, vote early if you can, if you're here in New York State. Very important that our voices be heard, no matter what it be. And remember, I think the Democrats want universal health care, universal daycare. I think Mamdani is a good spokesman for what a lot of New Yorkers and Americans of all stripes, they really want that type of popular type of, that's what their government is for, to work for the people. We don't want a war in Iran. We don't want to friggin' be harming and hurting our immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants. They add so much to the society. You know?
So, I mean, do you think that Hochul has been doing a good job getting out her message to the people to get out and vote?
Kathy Hochul really has no competition. There's no voice on the Republican side.
Yeah, they even admitted that too when I asked about Bruce Blakeman. They said, yeah, he's probably going to lose.
Nobody even knows who he is. She's not charismatic, but she has moved the ball in the right way. The AI data centers, at least a moratorium, very important. Even though it wasn't the bipartisan bill or whatever bill was in the House and Senate, she signed her own executive order, and it's very important that this gets done. I mean, like Tonawanda, I attended the meeting, and that data center in Tonawanda was going to use more water and more energy than Tonawanda, Amherst, and Clarence combined. Just ridiculous amount of energy. We're going to need all new infrastructure to build stuff like this. By the time these AIs are done, the technology itself is obsolete, and AI in general is telling you not to be creative, that we're going to feed you with whatever is an acceptable idea to think. That's the worst thing you can do. We want people to be free thinkers, to be creative, to create new ideas. AI is only going to regurgitate whatever is already out there. And AI is very dangerous in its own regard. They're competing against each other.
Have you been paying attention to the situation in Niagara Falls with the radiation at all?
I only saw a little bit of the writing on that. I attended Niagara University when that first came around with Love Canal. I used to drive down the service road to Niagara University. And after this first week of college, I couldn't even go down the road. They roped it off, and they had millions of dollars worth of earth-moving equipment rebuilding and changing the lay of the land. I remember going by pools of water that was purple and orange, all god-awful colors, bubbling out of the ground. And it's like, the grass didn't even grow. It was just dirt and sand there.
So do you think this is an only federal issue, or do you think the state can have any responsibility?
I believe the state stepped up originally, and right now the blue states have to step up even though it's a federal issue.
It's a remnant, so I work for the cleanup project for Manhattan Project way back when, and it is leftovers from the Manhattan Project from the 1940s.
Yeah.
So this is not a new issue. I mean, I had that job in the 90s, and so we've been fighting this issue in the town Tonawanda, Niagara Falls.
Yeah, because Love Canal is not the only site. There's 3 technical sites of radiation, isn't there?
More.
Well, the Love Canal and the radiation are 2 separate issues. Love Canal was chemical.
The Hooker chemical, sorry.
Yes. The radiation is from when they were developing the atomic bomb during World War II.
Praxair at Woodward Avenue is
Yes.
one of the hot spots.
I worked there.
I have men that I worked with that worked at Praxair, and they were told by their union reps, do not go in certain buildings, they are hot. And we actually excavated a lot of that. I worked on the railroad for 35 years.
Oh, you must have
We
excavated
actually took carloads of earth out of Praxair at Woodward Avenue. They built the Ashland Oil Refinery on top of waste from the Manhattan Project. River Road has got another hot spot.
Yes.
And yeah, they actually excavated down, I forget how deep, 10, 15 feet. I used to go in there. We had guys in spacesuits we would meet and move the stuff out in 20-foot containers that went out to Nevada to be buried in the ground. Unit trains of the stuff out of here. this area is really hot. Bethlehem Steel is also a hot spot.
Yes.
They built the plutonium tubes there for the Manhattan Project. So a lot of guys died down there from long-term exposure to various nuclear isotopes, plutonium and other strontium. And their families, their survivors got like 150 million, if I'm not mistaken, for being survivors of their parents that died there.
So the radiation that they're finding is separate from Love Canal, because Love Canal is Hooker Chemicals disaster.
The Love Canal was,
And with the radiation, they just capped it off, from what I understand, too, at a certain
they
point.
capped some of it off. They had Model City that they worked in. They have been cleaning this up. As I said, I had this job probably at the time you were moving this stuff. I was working at Praxair. And I was working for a company that was involved with the demolition and monitoring and the safety component of the removal. And that's what I did. I was keeping track of the records on site.
I can go back to the 70s, and one of my professors, and he was with a straight face, he goes, believe it or not, he goes, we had farmers in Wheatfield that used to get paid by the chemical companies to just drive Army surplus trucks loaded with 55-barrel drums into a hole in the back of their major farms and bury it. And they would just hand them cash just to bury the toxins. And again, can't really be verified, but I mean, he said it with a straight face. He goes, farmers used to get paid by Dow Chemical and other Hooker just to bury the stuff. Just with, here's cash. Bury this Army surplus truck and drums of chemical waste.
So Lois Gibbs was the one who advocated for the Superfund
saint.
sites. Superfund sites. Do the Superfund Sun legislation, do you know if that covers radiation, or is that mostly just to cover up just the chemical leftovers?
Chemical exposure,
like
the radiation
brownfields?
was covered under what they call fuse wrap, formerly utilized site rehabilitation action plan, and that was where the funding for the remediation for the radioactive waste. There's a whole.
So
that's a federal program.
That was a federal program.
So I mean, what do you think is going on with the funding for that? Is it just not there? Do you think
It was covered under, when I was working there, it was covered under the EPA, and then it was switched over to the Army Corps of Engineers. That's when
My sister has a number of friends that were graduates of RIT and the University of Rochester that worked on the Love Canal, and every one of them come down with cancer. A lot of them are dead. And one of her closest friends right now has an exotic form of liver cancer. She's only in her early 60s, and she's been fighting cancer for since probably 2007-8. And she worked on the Love Canal back during the 70s when she was in college. These people were exposed to the stuff. They were doing testing. They were doing research.
Well, the problem with Love Canal is it was, if you look at the legislation regarding hazardous waste and operations, one of the biggest problems there is characterizing the chemicals, and then when chemicals in one form, a pure state, interacts with another chemical, you can get chemical reactions and make things a lot worse.
Yeah.
They can be synergistic, they can add up and make it even worse.
Yeah, matter of fact, the one woman that has the cancer of the liver, she actually had her children tested, and their DNA chains have been mutated. So they're actually worried to have children that will carry on, because their DNA and RNA has actually been mutated because of their exposure to whatever they did in the Love Canal. I mean, there's no other reasonable explanation if you were not, because that's the only thing that would explain what has happened.
So what do you think our local state elected officials can do about it if the federal government doesn't seem to have done anything since the 70s?
The remediation for the radioactive waste started, it's going on in the 90s.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, because I was.
And now it's reborn again now.
Yes, they found more sites. And the thing with one thing with radiation is supposed to chemicals, it is easier to delineate the sites. chemicals are pretty tough because they migrate and move, and you don't have correct reading instruments that you can pick up. Oh yeah, that's radioactive, and that is one problem.
It might actually be Cuomo's father. Back in the early 90s, they actually allowed the blocks in the 90s to be reoccupied, saying that the levels and the level of remediation was okay. I had one of my coworkers buy a ranch home that was completely fixed up for like $20,000, like on 95th or 96th Street in Niagara Falls, saying it's okay to live there again. It's just like people are saying, no, it's not. And he goes, all my neighbors worked in the chemical plants and we work with this stuff and are exposed every day. We'll take that risk. So you people are crazy.
I mean, there's a big difference between acute exposure when you're in a workplace and chronic exposure when you're living in a place. You do not, when you're having chronic exposure, you cannot move away from it. You have to, you're there all the time. You do not get that period of away from exposure. And so it's, even though you might be exposed at a lower level than in a workplace, that time away is really helpful for getting the chemicals out of your system and stuff like that.
Well, thank you for your time. I'm Anthony. I didn't catch your name.
My name is Ann.
Ann, pleasure speaking with you.
And I'm Bob.
Bob, have a wonderful weekend and see you. And
Yeah, I'm a